You're listening to Switched On Australia, the podcast that tracks the opportunities and challenges of the renewable energy transition and electrifying everything, everywhere. Switched On is proudly brought to you by Boundless Earth. Boundless Earth uses philanthropy, investment and direct advocacy to help Australia become a global force in a decarbonised world. Switched On is also brought to you by GoodWe, the all-in-one ESA battery system safely powering Aussie homes, lowering bills and providing energy independence. Hello and welcome to Switched On Australia. I'm Anne Delaney. Right now, sitting idle in Hobart's Derwent River is a vessel many in global shipping once thought impossible, the world's largest fully electric ship. The 130-metre China Zorrilla was built by Tasmanian shipbuilder Incat. Designed to carry more than 2,000 passengers and 225 vehicles between Argentina and Uruguay, the giant ferry runs entirely on battery power. But for now, it's going nowhere. The ship is stuck in Tasmania waiting for a heavy lift transport vessel that's currently stranded in the Persian Gulf, unable to pass through the Strait of Hormuz because of tensions in the Middle East. The scale of this vessel is extraordinary. The lower deck is built to carry cars and on top are the passenger lounges. And in the middle sits an entire 2,300 square metre duty-free shopping deck. But perhaps the most remarkable spaces on board are the 4 battery rooms, housing more than 5,000 battery units that power the ship. At 83, Incat founder and chairman Robert Clifford is already looking beyond this vessel to an even bigger electric future. As we sat inside the first-class cabin of the China Zorrilla, its seats still wrapped in plastic, he explained why he believes battery electric ferries like this are a turning point for global shipping.
It is very much a turning point. Speed is only one ingredient, of course. Lightweight is the other very serious ingredient that we've been very good at. Lightweight has meant we've built fast ships in the past, but it also means we can build more economical ships now when speed is not quite so urgently required. And of course, electricity, or whichever form of power you use, needs a lot of energy to drive the ship. If you drive it at 20 knots, you need an awful lot less energy than you do at 40 knots, whether that's diesel or petrol or electricity. But we're looking at a much bigger market now than we've ever had before. We are now big enough to replace many conventional steel ships. Those steel ships, if they were to go electric, will need a massive amount of electricity because they are much, much heavier ships. And typical English Channel crossing, for example, it doesn't really matter whether you do 20 knots or 25 knots. It still only takes like an hour to get across. So the efficiency of the lightweight electric ship is very, very high on the agenda.
So the fact that Incat has been dealing with and manufacturing aluminium ships for some time, that's made you, put you in a great place to actually make the shift to electric?
Absolutely correct. To keep it in perspective, just imagine going to any of the aircraft manufacturers and say, we like what you do, but please build it out of steel. You know, we all understand that wouldn't work. The aeroplane wouldn't fly. Well, the ships are very, very similar. If it's a third the weight, it's about a third the power required to move it. And that's so important with electricity.
So just tell me about this ship that we're sitting in right now. How big is it? Give my listeners a sense of what you've achieved here with this vehicle.
Well, this ship is 130 metres long. It's what we call Panamax. That means that it still fits the Panama Canal, 31 metres and a bit wide. It carries 2,100 passengers, 225 or so cars, and it would have a speed of about 25 knots, and it will deliver its customers across the River Plate in about an hour on the journey that they're intending, and will do something like 6 to 8 return crossings a day. So, and it's got a massive duty-free shop on board as well, so to keep them occupied while they're on that 1 hour journey.
And also, I presume, to make some money for Book Your Bus.
Well, it's very important that he makes money, and of course he does make a very large part of his income out of the duty free, and that's great for us because we like to take it from him.
Tell me what sort of an engineering challenge this vehicle was.
The ship itself is quite relatively simple for us. It's a lightweight aluminium ship. The machinery, the water jets we're using are very similar to what we've used in the past. The electric motors are new, the switchboards are new, the batteries are new. They're not.
So you've had to develop these new systems in order to be able to put them on this electric vehicle?
We have, but in conjunction with the suppliers, of course. The electrical suppliers have worked very closely with us with all of those items. But we've had to put it together. Electric ships, as such, are not new. Many of the cruise ships are electric powered, for instance, but the electricity is made with diesel engines turning generators. We're replacing those generators with batteries. So it's not so much that electric is new, it's that the battery electric is new.
What has changed technologically and also economically to make an electric vehicle of this size, and it will be the largest, I understand, in the world, electric maritime vehicle? What's made it possible?
The batteries have been improving rapidly over the last few years. We are using today's known technology. So the batteries we're using today, we fully expect to be better in 4 or 5 years' time, which will give us more and more range. Whereas this ship's only on a 25-mile or 30-mile crossing, it won't be very long before we can do 50 miles, 60 miles, 70 miles, and not too long before we even do 100 miles. The batteries are improving so rapidly that the technology is growing as we grow.
I mean, fast ferries are generally energy intensive. How have you made this, fast and light?
Well, we are going slower than we used to go. This particular ship's only going to be in service at around 25 knots. We've had a number of ships that have been in excess of 50 knots in the past. Well, speed is, as you say, not the most economical way of travel. Coming down to 25 knots takes perhaps only a quarter the power that it takes to do 50 knots.
Right.
So whereas speed is very nice, economics is the driving factor.
And how much of the transition to electric ferries do you think is being driven by climate pressure versus hard commercial realities like fuel costs, regulation, certainly in Europe, and customer demand? Well,
it's a combination of all things, of course. There is an ecological pressure from governments, etc., and financiers. To finance a diesel-powered ship today is very difficult, because the financiers are worried what are you going to do with the ship in 5 or 10 years' time? So the finance industry alone is driving it. Governments are driving it also by putting taxes on diesel fuels, and those taxes are increasing annually to drive the ship customers away from diesel. So it's a combination of things: lightweight, electricity, the economics, and electricity, in most parts of the world at least, is not more expensive than other fuels. As diesel is taxed more and more, these hypothetical fuels like ammonia and hydrogen and all these things we read about are going to be very, very expensive if they are going to be available at all. And all of those fuels take a lot of electricity to make. So why not put that electricity straight into the battery?
You're mainly dealing, though, with the international market, which seems to have embraced the need for the energy transition possibly faster than what we are here in Australia. Is that why you're mainly dealing with the Danes, with the Argentinians?
Largely, yes. In Australia, there is a fairly limited scope for large electric ships. Sydney Harbour needs maybe 50. The Barrier Reef needs 50, but they're all smaller ships. We're tending to be focusing on the larger ships, the ships that are today running across the English Channel and the Irish Sea and the Baltic, etc. That group of customers is much more to our liking. Mm-hmm. You know, we could build 50 ships for Sydney Harbour, but 4 or 5 ships for the English Channel would be a better deal.
Robert, can I look at the what it has taken to be able to charge these sorts of vehicles? I mean, clearly, you know, getting the charging right is a big deal. How have you been able to achieve this?
Basically, we haven't yet achieved that. Incat is, we don't need to here. We don't need to charge the ship in 20 minutes or 30 minutes. In service, they do. So the customers have to find the electricity supplies, in this case, in Argentina and Uruguay, to fully recharge the ship. So they are spending serious money putting those facilities in. The English Channel, at the moment, Dover has no quantum of electricity available. Places like Dunkirk say, "Oh, not a problem. We have a nuclear power station right next door," and that's easy. And if the English like, we'll put a cable across to England so that they can charge it. The fact that there is not 500 places in the world that you can recharge might sound like a problem. Actually, it's not a problem to us. We're picking them off one at a time as these problems are solved. If we couldn't build the 1,000 ships that would be necessary if suddenly the world had plenty of electricity.
What about this vehicle, though? You know, Book Your Bus. How are they dealing with it? Because I understand that you can charge it pretty damn fast.
They'll be charging in 30 or 40 minutes in Uruguay and in Argentina. They are putting the facilities together to do that.
What does that take, though, to actually charge that fast, a vehicle of this size?
In Uruguay, I understand that they're putting 2 15 megawatt plugs in place. So they'll be charging at 30 megawatts at a time. That's an awful lot of electricity. Yeah. That would, we in Hobart only have about 2 megawatts available. So yes, they need a lot of electricity. So you've got to put the cables in to supply the electricity to the substations that are going to be necessary. So yes, there is some work to do. In all the ports of the world have that problem.
Because to make them commercially viable, they've got to be able to charge fast, because every time the vehicle is in dock, I presume, they're not making money, are they?
That's absolutely correct, and that's why we have a big advantage over the steel shipbuilders. A steel ship that takes 3 times the amount of electricity will take 3 times the amount of charging time. They can't sit around in port for 2 hours while they're recharging, whereas we can charge in 30 or 40 minutes.
When you had to do some tests here in the Derwent River, how did you charge the vehicle?
Well, we don't have to worry about charging in a short time. Mm. So we'd go out and do a day's trial, maybe 5 or 6 hours of testing, and come back in and maybe 5 or 6 days to recharge, which to us was not a problem because we had plenty of work to do to finish the ship off anyway. Mm. So we don't need the ship 100% finished to do trials. Mm. So we can handle that. But of course the operator can't handle that in service. He has to charge very quickly, so he's not having his ship sit idle for even potentially days on end. Mm.
Is there a sweet spot when it comes to the distance for electric vehicles? Because we all know with electric cars there's this fear of range anxiety. Is there going to be something similar for electric ferries?
Initially, yes, there certainly is. So the English Channel is an ideal spot, 20-odd miles. Sydney Harbour, not a problem in theory. And the Barrier Reef, not a problem. The distances are not too great. The Irish Sea, 50 or 60 miles, not really a serious problem. As time goes on, the distances are going to increase, just like they are with the cars. Today you can buy a car that'll go 2 or 3 times as far as it would 5 years ago. It's getting better, but it is a restraint at the moment.
And what about electric cargo vehicles? Do you envisage that we'll get there one day?
The vessels that we have in mind for the English Channel will be carrying 50 or 60 large trucks as well as cars and people. So the short distance ferries, not a problem with carrying large freight. Going across the Tasman Sea to New Zealand's a different story. We haven't got that solution yet. Those type of ships are going to be using the very expensive hypothetical fuels that are still not available, the hydrogens and the ammonias, etc.
My guest today is Robert Clifford, chairman of Incat, the shipbuilding company which has just built the largest battery electric ferry in the world, in Tasmania. And we'll be right back after this message from one of our sponsors.
G'day, Alex Carey here, proud ambassador for Goodwee. The Goodwee ESA 3060 all-in-one commercial solution is available now from Goodwee wholesalers. With a massive 50 kilowatt hours of the battery eligible for the federal rebate, it's the perfect solution for small businesses. The commercial energy storage range from Goodwee is growing, with more models launching soon. Visit goodwee.com.au for more information or contact the local Goodwee team.
Tell me what the experience for the passengers is going to be like in an electric vehicle, because I'm presuming it's going to be a hell of a lot quieter than a diesel vehicle.
It's remarkably quiet. The background noise that you can hear now as we sit here doesn't change. And as the ship leaves the dock, you have to be aware of what's happening. You look out the window and you suddenly realise the ship's moving. You don't have any feeling of it moving. One customer said to me a few weeks ago on trials, he said, "Oh, when are you going to open her up and give her full speed?" I said, "You're doing 27 knots now. What do you want?" You just don't realise it.
Yes.
So yes, there's a different atmosphere on board, which is going to be quite surprising to the first customers that come on board.
Can I just go back to a little bit of the history of this vehicle and how it came to be built? Because I understand that it was originally designed as an LNG vehicle.
Yes, it was designed as an LNG vehicle, first of all, which through COVID, the owner, or the new owner, said that, we'll have to put everything on hold for a year, which we did. And then I had a meeting with him a little later after COVID, and he said, well, the next vessel will be electric. And I thought he meant the next one. He didn't. Through his interpreter, he finally convinced me that he meant that we had to change this one.
Right.
which gave us some engineering issues, of course. But we solved that, and everyone's happy.
Right.
We hope.
And when you were presented with the prospect of having to turn this one into an electric vehicle, were you concerned about the time it would take to do that? Did you feel like you had the staff, the expertise to be able to do it, or did you have to bring new people in?
We had done a fair bit of homework on the subject, so we had a rough idea of what was involved. But yes, we had to get the contractors involved, the same contractors that were supplying the LNG engines, supplying the electric motors and the water jets and the switchboards for this ship. So fortunately, that one contractor was able to be of great assistance.
You've got a hybrid vehicle that you're building here at the moment. Why do you think that might be an important commercial product to be getting out in the market?
Well, right at the moment, the ports do not have the available electricity. So a number of diesel engines that can be replaced by batteries is the way to go. We're doing one vessel at the moment that's got 8 small diesel engines, and they will over the years be replaced by batteries, so that perhaps in 5 years' time that'll be all batteries rather than hybrid. Now, I'm not really happy with hybrid. Electricity makes more sense to me. If you think your Tesla would be a better car if you put an engine in the boot, it probably wouldn't be, because there's negatives and positives. Yeah, it would weigh more for a start.
Yeah, it's two systems.
So, and in a doubling up on the system. So, in the big picture, I'm not happy with hybrid, but in the short term, we have little choice.
Mm-hmm. And also, is there a market for it? Is there some pressure to be building hybrids?
Range and availability of electricity are the only reasons at the moment. For example, the Straits of Gibraltar, it's not very far across there, but right at the moment, neither of the ports has enough electricity. So we haven't much choice but to offer a diesel-powered alternative. I think in 4 or 5 years' time, that will change.
And for the ships that you're building at the moment, is the electricity mostly renewable that is recharging the vehicles? Do you know?
It certainly is in Tasmania for the limited amount of charging that we do. The English Channel, yes, nuclear is available. In Uruguay, I'm not quite sure, but some of it's hydro and some of it I think might be LNG powered. But yes, in the long term, it will be sustainable electricity.
So something that is really intriguing me is how has a company here in Hobart that let's admit it, a lot of Australians don't know about Incat. How have you come to be, to build the biggest electric ferry in the world and clearly to be an international force in terms of ferry building?
We've grown up with lightweight ships for the last 50 years or more. So we've been building bigger and better ships as time goes on. We're well known in the international market for what we do. So it might be a bit of a surprise to other Australians, but it's not a surprise to the international market. This particular customer in South America that we're dealing with now, this is his 9th ship. The other 8 were all either diesel or LNG powered. And when he wanted an electric ship, it was just a matter of changing the equipment. The hulls basically didn't change.
So return business, essentially, that you're capitalising on.
Yes, we do very much rely on return business. The next 3 ships we're building for a Danish customer, we've already built 7 for them in the past. So they'll be customer number 10 in a couple of years' time.
Right. Tell me about those Danish ships, because I understand that they're going to be even more of an advance on this particular vehicle we're sitting in.
Yes, they are not relying so much on the duty-free. They will be having a truck deck rather than just a car deck. They'll have less passengers and they'll be faster. For the Danish service, they do require a speed of about 35 to 38 knots. Not for the entire voyage, but they will have more batteries than the ship. They'll be faster, they'll carry less passengers, and their turnaround times will be perhaps even quicker. So they are very similar ships in many ways, but not the same.
Robert, what's your vision for the future of Incat? Do you see it growing?
I see it growing very rapidly. In fact, we have 7 electric ships in the system at the moment, in one way or the other. They're not all being built at the moment, but we have inquiries and we've started work on 7 different ships. That will soon become 17 ships when this ship gets into service. The market is very, very large. Just how large is hard to say at the moment, but quite literally all these steel ships that are running diesel and other fossil fuels at the moment have to be changed, and they have to be changed fairly quickly in the next 5 to 10 years. Now that is a massive market. That's far bigger than we can handle. So we are in a stage of working out just how big we can be. We're planning 4 ships a year in the next 5 years. The next 10 years, maybe a ship a month would be an aiming point.
And I understand you're employing people. You need something like 200 welders.
We've got a whole heap of welders at the moment. We've got another 150 on the books to start shortly. Some of those are immigrants that are trained already. Some are not. Some have to go through their apprenticeships, etc. So yes, we have a massive employment problem at the moment, getting enough people.
In the next few years, do you envisage China is going to be much of a competitor to what you're doing? Because I understand that they're moving into aluminium ferries as well.
Yes, China is building aluminium ferries now. They are perfectly capable of building more and better, bigger ones. They will be a serious competitor. There's no question of that. There's a quality issue at the moment with customers rejecting what they're building to some extent, but they'll get there. So China is definitely is a serious competitor for the future, and we have to stay ahead of the game.
And is there a vehicle you want to build that you envisage for the future? You might not, in an engineering sense, be able to do it now, but what's the dream vehicle?
Not necessarily a lot bigger. I think maybe 150, 160 metres is perhaps even a little bit bigger than that is perfectly possible. So big electric ships are the aim. But more importantly, I think, is a little bit like the aircraft industry, where there are a limited number of suppliers building near standard product. I would like to see 2 or 3 products only being produced, not a one-off for every customer. Build like the aircraft industry in series.
What do you reckon it would take for Tasmania to become a genuine global hub for shipbuilding?
It'd take a lot of cooperation all round from all authorities, the finance industry, the building industry generally. I do believe we can be a significant manufacturing identity in Tasmania. We can build in a similar fashion that aircraft are built in series production. A ship a month would be perhaps take 10,000 people, but that's not impossible. It's something that I would like to see happen. The ships will get a little bit bigger as time goes on. They'll get longer in range. 150, 200 miles will certainly be possible in 5 to 10 years' time. So larger and more of them is the way we're aiming. And there's no doubt that the time will come when a Bass Strait is absolutely logical to be electric. The fuel cost of these other fuels will say economically it must be electric. So that's not too far away.
Robert Clifford, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
And Robert Clifford is the chairman of the Incat group of companies. If you'd like to see what the China Zorrilla looks like, check out the feature I've written for Renew Economy. It includes some great photos from on board the vessel, and we'll also post some videos across our social media platforms. Thanks for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, review, subscribe. It really helps other people discover Switched On Australia. I'm Anne Delaney. See you next time. Switched On Australia was proudly brought to you by GoodWe. GoodWe's all-in-one ESA home battery helps Australians store more of their own solar energy and rely less on the grid. With strong local support and technology already trusted in thousands of homes, GoodWe is making the switch to electrification simpler and more affordable. GoodWe is proud to work with Australian cricketer and GoodWe ambassador Alex Carey. Find out more at goodwe.com.au. Switched On Australia is also proudly brought to you by Boundless Earth. Boundless Earth uses philanthropy, investment and direct advocacy to help Australia become a global force in a decarbonised world.